Hello, welcome to Framework. I am Al Schwartz. With me, as always, is John Bernard.
Hey, it's me. Let's get this over with.
Yeah, we are finishing up Dragon Age Inquisition today at our Bioware Omnibus. I am having a hell of a time remembering what we actually have covered and haven't.
We finished, basically, we were about to go to the Temple of Mythal. This is near the end of the game. It's closer to the end of the game than I think you realize when you're there. Basically, there's one big story mission left. It's at the end. You've defeated Corypheus, the villain of Dragon Age Inquisition's schemes to subvert the will of the Grey Wardens. You have ejected him from the court of Orlais. He is kind of scrambling, looking to consolidate what remains of his power in the ancient elven temple of Mythal. That's where it stands. We're talking, of course, about Dragon Age Inquisition, the third Dragon Age game. This is the fourth and final episode we have done on this, the longest game that has ever been made. Not really, but boy,
it feels it, and that's why that's part of the why the experience of playing the game is like this. Is that there is so much game between these story missions that when I get to one while playing it, I kind of do what I just asked you there. It's like, what am I doing here again? Why was this the next story beat? There's just so much air between. It doesn't have to be, I guess. It's technically in my hands as the player, but there's so much filler that is shoveled at me.
Yep.
Between doing the Winter Palace Royal Ball thing and this one, that I feel like I've missed something by the time I get there, or I've forgotten something important. And quite possibly I have. But so what we learn here. Oh man, it's
right.
been a couple of What do we learn here? It's some stuff about ancient elves. I guess we learned that the elven gods were actually like mages that kind of tried to become gods the way that Corypheus is.
Yeah.
Doing, right?
Essentially, that the elven gods maybe were less gods than they were just sort of very powerful magicians, and they had, sort of unnatural powers based on their exploration of magic, and ultimately they were sort of banished from the Earth realm, very Mortal Kombat style, by Fen'Harel, the Dread Wolf. And we have in the back half of this game, particularly, begun to see a lot more wolf imagery popping up. There are statues of wolves everywhere. There's elven writings referencing Fen'Harel or the Dread Wolf, and all he did. And we don't really, have a lot of context for what that is at start, but by the end of the game, yes, we all know what Fen'Harel's deal is. And of course, the final reveal is that it's Solus all along. But we're not there yet.
I honestly, it's a little hard to remember because some of this elven lore stuff comes into greater clarity with the DLC stuff, and I don't remember exactly what's nailed down at this stage and what it becomes more explicit later on. But yes. I think that the greater reveal here, more so than maybe these. I mean, there's this interesting thing here with the I guess lore of these gods aren't really gods at all. They were just very powerful mages, and it becomes almost like this sci-fi adage about how like any sufficiently powerful magic may as well be a god in a fantasy realm such as this. And
that's not a bad idea.
Greater sort of reveal for my character, at least as an elf, was less that the elven gods might have begun as mortals, and less that the ancient elven empire was less benevolent and actually was enslaved their own people, as before the Tevinter Imperium came along and kind of destroyed the Elven Empire and enslaved the elves themselves.
Yeah,
and it messes with the Dalish's sort of, I guess, persecution narrative of we have been the victim, the great martyrs of history.
That's a good story beat. And appropriate for this world, and also, I mean, it feels like that's kind of the story beat of every dominant civilization, ultimately, including ours. It's just sort of, well, we built this on sort of on a foundation of skulls and blood, and so of course, That is true in this case as well, and the debased status of the modern elves is kind of a little bit something that they have they built themselves from the original thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, to me, like, I think it's easy to overstate that type of thing, and I almost feel like the game does a little bit. It's like, okay, fine, 10,000 years ago the elves weren't so nice. That doesn't really like mean that any of the elves in the last 500 years had it coming.
No, it's
very, very far removed. But elven lore is becoming more important for the end of this game and probably for the fourth game. That's going to be a big focus.
Yes, it is. There are, let's see, what else is going on in the Temple of Mythal? Corypheus' army is defeated off screen by other people.
No, I mean, by our people. Like,
yes.
It's our army that we've been building, but yeah, we don't really, we kind of, yeah, the battle's going on. We're going in the back door while the battle's going on the front, and our people are apparently winning it handily. It feels like something that maybe we should have been a level or a mission that we were more involved in. But,
as opposed to solving Veilfire puzzles within the temple. Yeah. There is, I believe, Mythal herself ends up being, is it Flemeth? I think it is, right?
It is.
It is. The Flemeth is sort of the modern reverberation of the eternal soul of Mythal, who is one of those great old elves that had so much power. And
the Evanurus, please.
Yeah, the Evanurus. Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And so we have a relationship with Mythal. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. And apparently Solus did too, because he was motivated to, eternally damn all the other gods and create the veil between the realm of magic and our waking world, to imprison them by the other Evanurus betraying Mythal and killing her, I guess.
Right, except
they
she's
didn't
not
kill her
quite
very
dead.
well, apparently.
No,
yeah. Again, it's a little fuzzy, and I'm getting a little elven lore out. Yeah, we defeat Corypheus' army here. There is a sacred pool containing all the knowledge of the old elves, which we have a role-playing decision of Morrigan wants to drink from it and sort of gain its cursed knowledge for herself because she's dismissive of the supposed great costs that comes with it, or you can do it yourself. And supposedly it binds you to the will of Mythal in perpetuity. But Morgan does not know that Mythal is her mother, Flemeth, at that point, and is dismissive of, oh, well, it's a dead god, so what's she going to order me to do?
Yep.
It's a little, I mean, for somebody who's as immersed in magic as Morgan is, it's a little flippant for her to dismiss this the way she does, but it needs to happen.
It's a little in character, that she tends to not hold much stock in warnings and shit. I think it's okay, and it's also puts me in a position where I'm just like, oh, you want to do it? Cool, that's cool. You go right ahead. Then I'm not really all in on the power of this pool. It just sounds like a double-edged sword to me. So I'm fine with this. And I let Morgan drink from the pool. Did you do the same?
I did. I was on the fence because I was a Dalish elf, so I felt like maybe there's a reason for me to be more into this. But I also I think story-wise for the next game, it's probably more important that Morgan drank from it, and they might actually just sort of do some sort of retconning to make it as though she had done it anyway. I had an inkling of that, and ultimately I think I deferred to Solus, and he said let her do it. So I said, okay.
I think it will ultimately not matter. That's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, it can't matter that much if it's a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
that matters to the plot, then it has to go one way. So anyway. Yeah, I let her do it.
And then, Mythal, Flemeth. Well, no, I guess you don't. She shows up when you're back at the at Skyhold. The rest of Temple Mythal is just your basic monster fights, and I think that's about it. If memory serves, it's all starting to blend together here when I'm playing Inquisition. 90 hours in or whatever I am at this point, and I'm just like rapido. let's finish this off, as I implied earlier.
So let's finish it off then. The next thing after this is that your next war table mission, where you go to like activate the story mission, is supposed to be like, okay, we're gonna go finish off Corypheus. We're gonna march against whatever forces he has left.
Yep.
To finish him off. But once you activate that, he sort of preempts it by attacking you.
Yep.
And then you have a pretty brief final mission and boss fight.
It is 15 minutes. I timed it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everybody was kind of noted that at the time that it felt very abrupt.
Well, it doesn't feel like
stuff
the
in
end
there
of the
that
game.
Morrigan has developed the ability to turn into a dragon from having drank the water, I guess, and is able to take on the archdemon, at least.
Another fight that you do not,
so you can fight it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Another thing you don't really.
But at this point, I don't need more fights. I've been doing this for 100 hours. I'm tired of swinging my knives at things.
It's true. I'm ready for this to end, so I'm just like, yes, good. Wrap it, finish it, and it's not a hard fight. At least it wasn't for me because of I've done so much stuff in all the corners of Thetis at this point that I'm leveled beyond where this fight is supposed to be, and it just ends very fast. It's much easier than the one that you do as DLC in Dragon Age 2 with Corypheus. It has a way more interesting fight than this one, which is pretty straightforward but also pretty painless. It's over and done with, and you're just like, and that's it. Done.
Everything about it feels like they just ran out of time or gas and cut corners on this. And this sort of calls back to an old thing about hack game design, which is that level 1 is going to be really polished and really well done because that's what everybody's going to play and get them hooked. And then the final level, the fewest people are going to get there. So you're going to cut corners. That might be where it's done. That's really harms a narrative-based game like this when the finale is where the corners are cut. It harmed Mass Effect 3. That felt like they didn't fully polish it up.
At least Mass Effect 3 feels like it builds to a thing, There is build up and payoff in Mass Effect 3. It is not rushed, It does feel, what they came up with feels like they had to rush a little to get there, but the amount of time it takes and the gravity it is given, and you are watching characters die and stuff, all that is there. This is really just like, shit, we got to get out of here. The space is rented. We have to leave kind of thing. That's the energy of the end of this game. And I'm fine with that because I want it over with at this point. But perhaps
that's a bad reason to be accepting it.
And it does feel like the story and the detail and all the world that is being built up in the beginning of this game, it becomes less and less and less important as it goes on, to the point where you're just like, let's just finish it off. Just finish it off. And this final mission is really, egregious example of that. When this game came out and there was no DLC, it was just, this is the end. I remember it feeling like shocking. I was just like, what? That's it? I was probably tired of it at that point too, but ready for it to be done. But even still, it's not what I'm used to from Bioware. The reason we're doing this omnibus is because of the writing of these games, more or less. And this is a bad example there.
Yeah, and it gets down to like, it's not even clear where this is taking place.
No.
And it becomes, you can kind of squint your eyes and just tell that, okay, this was initially supposed to be an attack on Skyhold. Because it's like a ruined castle that's been kind of blasted. And okay.
Isn't it just like a mountain that like lifts into the air like we're in an anime or something? It's
another goddamn floating mountain area.
A lot of floating mountain areas. Yeah.
I get so tired of these things. But, in the Fade, I have to make some accommodations for it. I don't know. I guess the idea is that he is ripping a new rift and the Fade is invading here or something. Who cares anymore? We don't. So you kill him. You kill him, and it's a job well done. Happily ever after, more or less.
Yep.
And the Inquisition will kind of go on. I don't you have a party at the end. You can go from person to person and get the resolution, final conversations with everybody.
Notably absent is Solus. Yeah.
Yeah, so with the exception of Solus, because he has effed off with his sort of secret revealed. I don't know. It's not even revealed to the Inquisitor yet, because I had to in Trespassers when I found that out. They reveal that in a post-credits or mid-credits stinger where
So
Solus
the original ending, yes.
and Flemeth come together. They have a talk about how they are ancient elven gods and old friends, and then she dies. He turns her to stone or something. It's not.
He's like sucks her energy out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like we both know how this is. Like she's not. That's not a fight. So it's unclear exactly what's happening there.
Yeah, and I tell you, I still don't really know what happened there or why he killed Mythal. Maybe it was said and I missed it, but I don't think so. That said, it is a reveal, and it is a thing also that, like, through most of Trespasser, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I don't know he's Fen Harel. I forgot, and when that's a reveal at the end to the character, I'm just like, oh yeah, he didn't know. I knew. It wasn't actually the guy. It was, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neat little twist at the end of the game, and I guess that gives it something after this disappointing final act, that you have a hook and a thing to go into the next game or the DLC, as it were, with a plot thread to explore. I do think that if you play the game now, there's no reason to play without Trespasser if you play it now. That's the final DLC. Yes. Trespasser acts as a pretty solid end to the actual game. And if, if Corypheus is no longer required to be the end of the game, having this weird little fight with him beforehand, with a big story mission remaining, that's okay. Now the game has a real end, which is based around Solus and the Dread Wolf. And I think that now works retroactively, even as I'm tired of playing it by then.
Yeah, and maybe we should. I think we should talk about Trespasser last, actually.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's the end of the story. There are these two other sort of.
I'm not going to talk much about either of these.
No, the one thing I guess before we leave the main game that we glossed over is one major thing that could have, I guess, repercussions going forward is electing the new Dragon Age Pope. And that is the candidates there are all people that coming out of the Inquisition. Oddly, even though the Inquisition is a controversial. You'd think there'd be some. I guess you'd think there'd be some candidates from outside the Inquisition because the Chantry doesn't love the Inquisition necessarily, but also the game is called Inquisition. Why would we want? Outside?
There's also, there's in-world reasons. The Chantry leadership has been decimated by the Corypheus in the events of the game, right at the beginning. So there's very little leadership left for the Chantry, and the Inquisition is dealing the hot hand right now. To be fair, they're the ones who are getting shit done. Yeah.
Yeah, and Liliana and Cassandra are the two front runners, and they were the two the left and the right hand of the divine, as they were called. They were the sort of, I guess, so maybe they would be next in line. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works. It's not necessarily that
there's a whole conclave like
that, and the Secretary of State are the next in line for president, as a matter of course. But you can throw your support behind Liliana or Cassandra or Vivienne, I guess, as an option. But it's not just you click which one you support and that decides it. Apparently, I thought it was.
I thought that was.
What I read on the wiki entry, apparently there's a point system based on decisions made throughout the game, so you can support a losing candidate.
Fun.
Not really understand why that was.
Yeah.
Liliana ended up getting it for me.
Oh, Cassandra for me.
Yeah, I think I might have done Cassandra the first time through, but and at this point, I don't even remember why I chose one over the other.
I don't remember either. Honestly, I kind of. The problem was Cassandra was then out of my roster for the DLC, and until I got to Trespasser when she returns, and that's actually fun because now she has divine armor. So ultimately, it was okay, but she does go away if she becomes the Pope of Dragon Age. So something to that changes things up a little.
I think Liliana was professing to be the more revolutionary candidate, that she had bigger sweeping reforms that she wanted to make, and I think I kind of thought, well, actually, I like both these characters, and I kind of would like either of them to still be involved in Veilguard. But it seems like Liliana might break more shit and cause more more drama.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I went that route.
Fair enough.
Anyway, we then have, so now we're into the DLCs, and there's 3 major DLC packages. There's the Descent, which is the Deep Roads one. There's the Jaws of Hakon, which is the very high level, huge post game kind of. It's not a sequel, but it's, what do you call it? I mean, it's an expansion pack, I guess. I don't know.
It's another board.
The right term for it.
Another big board.
And then there's Trespasser, which actually wraps up the story.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, Bioware at this point has sort of a reputation for very strong DLCs that people like a lot. This is kind of after Mass Effect 3, some of the most popular DLC they've ever put out, so there's an expectation that we're getting some good stuff here. And as it turns out, it's the end of the game, the end of the story, really, is what is included in Trespasser. But all 3 really, there are some expectation for. I don't know. I mean, I think the problem for me really is just that I've had enough of this fucking game at this point.
This context we're playing it in does it no favors. Mm-hmm. Like, I think if there was a 6-month gap between when I finished Inquisition and then when this was released, and that's a good way to be coming back to it. And like, oh yeah, my friends again, and I've had a little break. And this, I was just trying to get through so we could record this episode. Yeah, I did Descent first.
Descent is my favorite of the 3. Well, no, Trespasser is better, but I far prefer Descent to Jaws of Hakon.
Yes, it's a different environment. I can't express how fucking disgusted I was at how many dwarven mugs I was collecting.
Oh, I just didn't. I was just like, I got a mug. I don't fucking care. I'm not paying any attention to that. I will not get all the mugs. I refuse.
I was picking up and just going, God damn it! Why did I pick this up? Why am I still doing this? And it's because there's a marker on my mini map that's pointing me there, and like maybe there's something of interest there. Of course, there's not at this point. We're 120 hours into this game. I know there's nothing. Dwarven mugs have no interest, but they're still there.
Yeah. I mean that's the big thing that happened is I got with these last 3 things. All the DLC. I was just like, I'm not doing the collector shit at all. I refuse. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm doing the plot. Well, wait, no. You know what? I did. I unlocked some extra level areas in the Descent. Now that I reflect back on it, and regretted it. I regretted doing it. I felt quite the fool for pursuing those things. But I was able to kind of divorce a little. What I like about the Descent is it is a narrative level. It is it is for the most part, a mission-based thing. You are going forward in one direction, and there's a plot that you are unveiling as you proceed, with a story that has a beginning, a middle, and end, and characters that are involved in it. And you are not circling around a map, just collecting dots on a board. And I was like, oh, good, I got another fucking obelisk or whatever the shit this. I cleaned another camp out. It's not just the same goddamn thing that we've been doing for 100 hours at this point. It's a story mission, which this game doesn't have too many of.
Is that there's unnatural earthquakes have been going on, are threatening lyrium mines, and they're in production, which is a important part of the Dragon Age economy. And so you're going to investigate this. That we have angry titans, which are figures of dwarven legend it's really unclear what they are. And it turns out they are sort of like living spirits of the mountain, right? That they are
the actual like physical being of a titan. I never got a clear idea on what that is. I mean, they are more metaphysical beings than not. By the end of the game, we are inside the titan, is what we're told.
Yes. Yes, we're inside the titan. We're like fighting one of its organs, and they do have a physical being to the extent that lyrium is the titan's blood. So lyrium is alive in some sense, which is, I guess, a big earth-shattering revelation to like the people within the Dragon Age world. I don't know how, like, we knew lyrium was magical, but the distinction between being magical and being alive and being the blood of a living being, like, doesn't, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what it changes. Probably not much in terms of how it functions.
No, not really. It's lore stuff that's a little interesting, I suppose. I do like that this, like, we get to kind of like almost Lovecraftian place here. With it sort of turns into the Mountains of Madness or something at the end, because as you get farther and farther down, stuff becomes less real and it becomes weirder and more inexplicable. And where you end up is actually this. It's kind of terrifying. It's this abyss of whiteness in the center. At the bottom of the this endless shaft, with light coming towards you, and it feels like you're in sort of a place that exists way before any sort of historical record we've seen up to this point, and is metaphysical in some ineffable way. And what exactly are these titans? They're not living beings in the way we understand. All that is really cool. I think this is actually pretty. It's horror adjacent,
and the environments look great.
They do
at this point. Like, it starts with like deep road stuff that's that's familiar to us from prior games, but as we get deeper in there, you find an underground sea with like waves crashing through it. That's a pretty some great fantasy imagery. And then the final like Titan's Heart or whatever we're fighting is eerie in a way.
You've been talking about how tired you are of these sort of like floating castles and shit. That's kind of what's going on here, but it's one of the better evocations of it. This is probably the coolest looking one in the game. These are another thing about those that, and this level in particular is, this game at this point, 11 years old. In 11 years, there have been quite a few Dark Souls and Dark Souls adjacent games that have used this exact aesthetic, and so it's really hard to look at all this stuff now and feel at all impressed with it. The Descent is the closest it comes to feeling like a new and exciting thing.
I've never played a Dark Souls or a Soulsborne or whatever the type is called.
So you want to see floating ruins and weird shit like that? There's a lot. There's a lot in all of them.
Yeah, you know that I do not.
They're fun
but
games.
Then the Jaws of Hakon is probably the longest one, I'd say, but it is just an outdoor area. It's not that unique. There's just your standard enemies and giant spiders there are just super high level, and it makes it a real slog. This is where I turned it down to casual just to try and get through. Get through it, and still, like, I feel like I'm fighting these bosses for like 20 minutes at a time.
I did not enjoy this at all. I was so over this at this point, and I was just like, it's another one. It's kind of one of the biggest ones. It's definitely the most difficult combat wise, just in that it takes forever. I'm not losing to anybody at this point with my build and my level, but it's just that they're massive health bars that you got to whittle down, and it takes forever. None of this is interesting anymore to me. There's a lot of shit in Jaws of Hakon that I was like, I'm not doing it. Fuck it. I'm not following this. There's a lot more plot here than there is in the other ones. Actually, that is something I like that they addressed, but I don't care at this point. I'm over it. I'm done. I don't want to hunt down their fucking ceremonial religious bear and lure him back to the camp. I refuse to do it.
I mean, they've developed this like kind of Norse mountain tribe and their culture quite a bit, and I want to give them some credit for that. It's just we're so tapped out at this point. That, okay, we don't have a lot to say about the actual story there.
No, it exists
it's about,
in plenty.
I guess, you're uncovering the story of how the original Inquisitor, the first Inquisitor of the original Inquisition, disappeared and died, and he was saving Orlais from the invasion of this embodied Hakon, the tribesman's god that can possess a dragon, and is about to try. There's some cultists there that are trying to stage a new invasion of Orlais or Ferelden with their dragon god, and you have to interrupt that and kill them. And you do, because you've killed 8 or 10 dragons at this point. It's old hat to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how early in this game the dragon fights are kind of a big highlight, and they're sort of one of the things you look forward to. It's a lot of fun. By the end, you're even tired of the dragon fights. You're just like, yeah, okay, another one. Let's wrap this one up too. Yeah.
Okay. And that brings us to Trespasser, which is where the story actually wraps up. We jump forward 2 years Liliana or Cassandra or Vivian, I suppose, is now, ensconced as the new pope. And there's questions about what is the Inquisition now that Curvius is gone? Is it going to continue? And what form? And we go to this big meeting where Orlais and Ferelden are both there to yell about how they're not happy with the Inquisition still sitting right on their border as this independent military force. Kind of reasonable position for those countries to have, I would suppose. And then we uncover a plot by the Kunari to they have now hijacked a bunch of the Illuvians, the elven mirrors that are teleportation devices, and they are smuggling their barrels of gunpowder in to do several 9/11s worth of bombings at various world capitals to decapitate all the non-Kunari states and launch an invasion of the rest of Thedas. Turns out that's sort of the work of a rogue operative among the Kunari who's gone a bit crazy.
Yep.
And actually is because she's trying to chase down Solus. She doesn't know that he is Fen'Harel. She thinks he's an agent of Fen'Harel, but that Fen'Harel is manipulating the Inquisition and is going to destroy the world. And that's sort of what drives her off the deep end into launching this full Kunari invasion against the will, without the approval of the Kunari, heads of state. Also, it turns out Solus does want to end the world, and she was right the whole time.
Yeah, right. He wants to. So he separated the Fade and the real world with the Veil, which banished the Evanurus, but also robbed the elves of their long lives and their immortality, and kind of just altered the physical reality of existence. And he wants to kind of take that back, which would throw the entirety of the world into sort of an elemental chaos to start with, ending all current life, but restoring the original balance of things, where the real world and the dream world coexisted in one. You know what? This is kind of hard to wrap my head around. I'll admit. It's an apocalypse scenario, I guess, is all that's really necessary for our character.
It's really the hardest part for me is to wrap my head around what the old elven empire was before the Veil came down.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like it was a complete alternate universe with different laws of reality or something.
Yeah,
and so how we managed to do any of that, it's tough. Veilguard's going to have some work to do to sort of distill this to a version of events that I can care about. I mean, I guess it's that we have to stop Solus because he acknowledges he is going to kill all non-elves, I guess. Is that maybe even the current elves?
Maybe even the current elves. It's sort of an Ultron kind of deal. A little bit, and just no, we're gonna start over again, kind of thing. The way it was meant to be. It's not super. It's not a great plan, honestly. He feels guilt for removing the world from its natural state originally, and it is metastatized into a completely different thing that is existence as it exists in the Dragon Age world, which mirrors ours somewhat closely, except for there's magic and shit like that. But yeah, I guess the true existence that was subverted by Fen'Harel is sort of this magic world where waking and dreaming are one, and the elves are immortal. Again, esoteric.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard thing to really. I mean, I guess the idea is to make it easy to you can't be on the side of that.
Yeah, right.
Because who could understand what it is? But anyway,
it's the sort of like a Neil Gaiman Sandman kind of conceptual existence that that brief lives of humans it's impossible to really grasp, I guess, is the idea.
Yeah. Well, so I think I went through most of the game trying to romance Solus for this purpose of it's all supposed to pay off here. I don't know, man. Really... Somewhere along the line, I clicked the wrong dialogue option or something because the romance never actually triggered all the way. Like we did a date at some point. I think maybe we kissed once, but it didn't end. The final game state didn't end with me in a romance with him. And at that point, I couldn't care less. I didn't like him really like him anyway. So, but,
sure, right.
But so I went through all that for nothing. I got none of the extra juice out of that here because he was just calling me his friend.
I did that. I have done a playthrough with Romancing Solace, and I found it underwhelming and did not really reveal much more, I thought, than not.
You know, actually,
a cold fish in any version of it.
Doing it in this context, this didn't strike me, I don't think, the first time through I played Trespasser, but how much it is sort of retreading what Witch Hunt was as the last DLC for Origins. And it's all revolving around Illuvians.
Yep.
And it's about your primary mage companion / possible romantic interest from the base game is now the target of your pursuit as you're going, like, trying to go through all this. And then they end by giving you a kiss off and going off through the Illuvian to pursue their mysterious aims. And that I didn't realize how much formulaic apparently that had become.
This replay of the entirety of Dragon Age has kind of revealed that it does tend to just hit the same plot beats over and over again a lot of the time. It feels like there's not too many scenarios that they have come up with that aren't kind of just stock fantasy scenarios or things that you can directly attribute to, other fantasy stories, or things that Dragon Age itself has already done and sort of restated. And yeah, I find that it all feels a little shallower than I originally took it to be. I thought I was kind of coming into this believing that this was a fantasy version of Mass Effect, essentially, which is, I would argue, a fully formed fantasy or science fiction, in that case, world to explore and enjoy, and that kind of contains a lot of depth, and many stories can be told within there, and, it's as thought out as something like, as a Star Trek. Maybe more than a Star Wars, even. It's very elaborate. I don't think Dragon Age can hit with that. I don't think it's even close, to be honest.
I do think the world is really well designed, and it is mostly
yes, but it's shallower.
Inquisition that kind of yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like Dragon Age 2 is a game I did not enjoy playing, but I have a lot more respect for it after getting through Inquisition because it at least the narrative is really cool. Like the story being told there is actually really, really original and feels unique and is a cool way to kind of fill in the details of things. Yes, it's very Game of Thrones-ish, but I like Game of Thrones too. It works in that way. This thing is just they lost control of it. It is what this one feels like. Inquisition,
Inquisition is you're actually playing it just to feel sort of the control of it and your experience of it move out of the I'm playing through a series of paperback novels and into I'm playing an Ubisoft open world thing that's designed to just keep me collecting herbs for indefinitely while they harvest my metadata.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and this has been the most difficult time I've had with a Bioware game since we started this. I don't know that I'd say it's the worst one, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Polished some stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard because it ends on its worst foot. Which makes it hard to give the final verdict on it and remember how enthusiastic we were in that first episode.
We were. You listened to that one
all those weeks ago.
We were having fun. We were enjoying ourselves. We were just like, hey, look how good the graphics are. I'm really feeling like I'm controlling it. What a nice change in the combat system. Oof.
Yeah, the world's reacting to me.
Oof. Just the longest time later, I'm just like, man, I got tired of playing video games during this. I was just out. I don't know. It was a massive relief to end this.
Okay, so is this the end of our thought experiment of how do you even adapt Inquisition? Do we scrap the Dragon Age we've already laid out? As
Well,
does that show not work if this is where it ends up?
I mean, yes. Like,
Oh man,
I'm not
that's a
interested,
rough road.
but if we're trying, if we want to, if we're just like, oh man, everyone loved our 3 weird Netflix movies about Dragon Age 2, and there's an immediate desire for more Dragon Age content, the fan base is there. We want to keep making Dragon Age on television. Let's make Inquisition. It's the obvious next step. So how do you go about it? How do you make this into something that is more fun? And it's a lot harder than it has been before because the plot is so decentralized compared to other Bioware games.
Yes, this is the hardest nut to crack so far, I feel, which is surprising. It's like you would think as things go on, the actual games themselves are evolving towards more cinematic experiences and that they're more informed by prestige TV and more like a
But
more
not this
directly
one.
attuned to that. But not this one, no.
Yeah.
And that starts with this, the threshold question here that we started to ask about all of these is, okay, if you're going to adapt any of these big RPGs to the screen, do you need the player character to be involved? And that has been, back and forth. This is the easiest no for me since the original Baldur's Gate, maybe.
He is sort of centrally like there is a figure that is the Inquisitor, that sort of ties the room together, a central figure to
for
the
a game.
story.
I feel like that's a worse that is a hindrance show. So the Inquisition is a thing it's formed without the consent of the player by this sort of brain trust of Cassandra, Liliana, Cullen, and Josephine. And having the push-pull between those 4 about what this organization is supposed to be and how it's going to act, you already have all the perspectives you need there. I don't like as a game, yes, we have to have our perspective on there and have the final word on which of those perspectives is going to carry the day. But in an ongoing drama, having that be an ongoing drama where they're, that maybe you have Cassandra and Cullen are the more militaristic versions, and Liliana and Josephine are, if not pacifist, more about soft power or whatever. But there's a constant thing of how you need to get a majority of these voices to act. So it's always about which 2 are trying to court which 3rd one to overrule the 4th one for any particular problem they're facing. And if you really want an audience perspective character there, you can have Varric as a skeptic and all that. And as far as the plot function of closing the rifts, Solus can be this mysterious mage with the unique ability to affect them. That ties into his backstory perfectly once it's revealed.
That's interesting. You don't think that it benefits from having a central figure, maybe, that kind of drives the narrative in a sense? Now, the way we've kind of been talking about adapting these stories, that has always been a thing you can kind of remove, I guess. I really did like the idea, though, that Hawk is the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
I think that actually was cool, and serves as an interesting, it kind of recontextualizes too as sort of the foundational cauldron of this character that ends up being important, and that works really well because the Inquisitor in the game has no backstory, really. There is no background. There's no character really there. If you take Hawk and just slot that in, does that maybe not solve a lot of the problems, though?
Yes. I think if you're going to do an Inquisitor figure, then it should be somebody that's been in earlier games or seasons here. Because that's all right. So in the alternate reality necessary to get to the point where you're adapting Inquisition, we are now 4 seasons and 5 seasons into a thing like deeper than we've gotten before. We laid out like Mass Effect. I think our final conception of that would have stretched out about 5 seasons, but that is a much more linear story. And
absolutely.
With an obvious main character we're following, and that is laid out more like a TV series than the Dragon Age series is already. But
these are discursive fantasy novels, yes,
yes,
at their best.
But by this time, we've got several seasons of show that have built up, if they're still going on, there's going to be fan favorites and hits. Maybe that if we want to bring forward Fenris could be the Inquisitor. Sure, his magic tattoos help him survive that explosion when he wasn't supposed to, when nobody was supposed to, or whatever. It could be Hawk. If fucking Nathaniel Howe really connected with people for some reason, whatever. I don't think we don't need a new character coming up out of nowhere here.
I agree with that. And you can also bring any of those guys in to serve in the Inquisition. Like they don't have to bring up back. Yeah. We don't have to even use all the guys that are in the game. There's a few that are obvious. I think you definitely want to have Cassandra. You definitely want to have Blackwall. There's guys with plot facility. You want to maybe write Cole out? Yeah, write Cole out. He's not in it. You can do that with any of them. Honestly, there's a few that are better than others. I think you would want to keep in, but I think for the most part, you can kind of just pick and choose. The ones that have plot facility, probably like a third of them. If you want
Iron Bull to just be Sten, you could. It's a rewrite of his personality, but his plot function.
Kind of love the idea of Sten just, we catch up with Sten maybe. Maybe Sten hasn't been on the show for a few years and shows up again and he's changed. Now he's the head of a mercenary organization. I buy that. That's kind of cool. And I think, you want to have the freedom to really adapt this, change it. Don't feel beholden to any of this shit, honestly. Like there's very few things in Inquisition that I'm just like, well, you have to have that or it doesn't work. Almost none of it. You could literally change any individual segment of this game in the adaptation and it would be fine. All that really carries over, I suppose, is that there is a sort of a celestial event. Fantasy Pope explodes along with many other people, and a new organization kind of rises to deal with this existential problem with the rifts opening, and the ancient Winter mages come back and want to despoil heaven once again. That's really the plot. And if you can kind of just do anything after that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep the basics of the Winter Palace stuff. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Sure.
And the Grey Warden corruption angle, I think, is an interesting one that I would want to preserve in some fashion. And I do think, for the most part, I think the cast is what's worth preserving here.
Some of them, yeah.
Cole maybe aside, but for as much as I don't love Sarah as a character in the game, I think that could be an interesting character on a show.
I like the Friends of Red Jenny thing going on as a runner, and a character that works in sort of Robin Hood figure in that realm works. Similar with Vivian, who's not like an incredible character, but is terrific for adaptation. Like that voice should be heard on the show, and
that's a perspective that we want to include. Yeah, same with Sarah. They don't have to be exactly the way they articulate in the game. Yeah, but something akin to it.
Just so.
I think Iron Bull should be toned down probably from the over the top ways presented in the game, but that doesn't mean he has to be all the way down to Sten's level of taciturn. But yeah, you have to include Varric in here. If a show is not executing the Varric character, then the whole thing is not working, most likely. So
I'd say more Varric, honestly. I mean, I want Varric to be, and not just because he's a dwarf, the Tyrion of the show, essentially. I think he's kind of the most relatable one, and the one who can, who's maybe smarter and can kind of come up with shit, and is sort of the audience's favorite in a lot of ways. I would say that would be the goal for this character. Is that he has that. He should be that, at any rate, if he's being correctly utilized. And I think in the game, that's what he does. If anything, I want more of him.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're circling now. It's funny that with the earlier games, Knights of the Republic, Mass Effect, even Origins, this exercise was largely about figuring about what can be cut out from the game. What could be combined and to fit into the shape of a series or a movie trilogy. Inquisition is an order of magnitude larger than any of those games in terms of content and playtime. It's probably twice as big as Mass Effect 3. But more than these others, I feel like adapting this would require inventing a bunch of new things. Like
Absolutely.
This one calls out for a traditional writer's room setup, where, like, take the basic story and whip up individual episode ideas within the concept of this Inquisition Rising, rather than just like, well, you can go from this side quest and then you could do that one and then you do that story quest and that'll get you to the end of the season.
I feel like the Inquisition, and it's not just because it was fresh at the time. I think the first third of this game is actually really, really interesting writing, and a lot of interesting plates start spinning at that point. There's a lot of places to go with that stuff, with what's going on with the Templars, for example, is kind of that's something I want to see pursued. That is a narrative that has a hook to it that is interesting. And just in no case do they actually follow through successfully here.
It's strange how, like, the stuff that's most interesting and successful in the game is, to me, how it weaves your standard RPG power fantasy, where you're the protagonist whose decisions shape the entire world. And it puts that into a political context where there's a rationale for why the Inquisitors' whims carry that kind of weight. Mm-hmm. You are an essential figurehead to this new power in this world. I don't think the show really needs that, because it's not a game with a blank slate protagonist. Like, I mean, it can be about how the infighting within that organization, and it doesn't always have not one voice that has to speak out there consistently. There can be a push pull between internally. I think we can have a lot of good scenes around the war table.
We are essentially describing Game of Thrones now, like fully. That there is
a bit more focused,
yeah. There are warring factions. There are different people that want different things, and different people want control. The goal is to try to wrangle all these dissenting voices against an existential threat of magic demon monsters trying to destroy everything. It's almost exactly the last bad seasons of Game of Thrones. That's what this is, essentially.
That's true. As it collapsed down, I mean, it is more to what Game of Thrones collapsed down to in its final seasons, which is this is, we want a world as large and expansive as Game of Thrones, but it's going to be consistently from a perspective of, like, Jon Snow's attempting to cut through all that and face the big fantasy existential threat without. We're not going to do big long cutaways to what's going on in Denerim and what's going on in Dorum, or the to enter Imperium being our version of Dorne or whatever,
right?
And trying to build us up as sort of equal co-branches of the narrative. We are going to follow our guys in a somewhat more conventional path through that world. That does, yes,
sure,
but also the way that the small table council scenes in Game of Thrones are the best scenes of that show. If this adaptation was working, the scenes around the war table of the Inquisition arguing about their strategies is probably going to be some of the juiciest stuff.
Well, I mean, every version of Game of Thrones does that too. They have their cool ass wooden table on what is that, Dragonhold? I don't know, the fucking
Dragonstone.
Dragonstone, yeah. It's essentially that. And you know what? I get that that's okay, and I get that works, and it there's a good version of that for sure. It's just not very exciting at this point to be kind of restating that stuff again. Just do it better this time is kind of all you can say. And it's not like they do it better in Inquisition as it stands now. So it's kind of a from the ground up. This is why I say it probably shouldn't be done. It really loses a lot of what's interesting.
I'm more hopeful. I think that the part of what made those later seasons of Game of Thrones disappointing was because it was shedding a lot of what had made it.
Well, I mean, this is House of the Dragon too. This House of the Dragon as well, though, is doing this same shit at this point.
Yeah, I guess. But House of the Dragon, but it's sticking with that. There are no good guys. It's like there's good guys in our narrative. It's more conventional in that sense, and you want it to be as expansive, but it's not as murky morally necessarily.
That's true. And a lot of this is predicated on the characters working in a way that they sort of do in Inquisition, the game. I think, we're putting a lot of eggs in Varric working, but at least 4 or 5 of these other ones have to do as well. They, We want
Yeah,
these
we need to
guys
pull off
be,
the Blackwell character.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty well to make it.
And it's tough to really, when we're projecting after 4 years of fictional show that we've already created, to kind of even know where we all stand with that stuff. Obviously the people that we liked on those shows that may not be in Inquisition the game can come back and be in the Inquisition.
Yeah.
That's cool. Hey, Shale, good to see you, Shale. Welcome back. If that's what we want, it can be done, and it's good even. But it's so far refracted at this point. It's kind of hard to conceptualize it. Let me put it this way: what from the game Inquisition do we want to try to include in this? Like these big boards. Do we want to come up with something to happen in Emprise de Leon? Do we want to see the Emerald Graves, the dragon fights, the Winter Palace and the Orlais thing? That's obvious. Yes, we definitely do that. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, like what are we actually adapting here from what we have?
Let me answer that in an oblique way. But I was thinking about structure here, and especially after the last season of Andor and the sort of, and that like kind of unlocked it to me because I was trying to figure like where do you end a season of Inquisition? Because the way that the game lays it out, it's kind of awkward. But I think actually the way that Andor structures things with those 3 episode blocks, that, and then you can have a time jump as necessary. That's a really good way because I think that allows you to have sort of climaxes, or there's like one season with 4 finales to it,
right?
And so, I think having a whole season that if it takes a whole season to build up to just like the Mage and Templar recruitment missions here, maybe that's too much for one season. But as a 3 episode block,
sure,
and then that works really well. And that what's great about this too, I think it allows us to do both the Templar and Mage kind of alternate reality thing.
Yeah,
so we like
totally.
The contrast there. You can't get in one playthrough, but seeing the glimpse into the dystopian future where Curpheus wins, and then also seeing the dystopian fantasy of what the Inquisition wins, counterplayed against each other, could be really interesting, I think, dramatically.
Yeah.
And then I think, it's abrupt in the game how you go, once you do that, your next story mission is now we close the breach, and that just kind of happens. And then Curpheus attacks and drives you out of Haven and into Skyhold. And that feels like a season finale thing.
Very much. Yeah.
But if you're really trying to drag it out, the Mage recruitment, that alternate reality stuff could be your finale. But maybe if there's just these 3 episode blocks, we're accustomed to that. There's some time space in there where you're organizing your new allies, and you can do more of a fake out of closing the rift being the actual finale before Curpheus attacks Haven. That I don't know, that I think that works a little bit here for how these are already kind of compact. You said about that. There's not a great deal of flow from one story mission to the next in the way that you experience the game. So maybe your 3 episode arc could include 1 episode of random Crestwood stuff or random stuff you want to kind of spin up about the Emprise de Leon before you go to the Winter Palace.
Well, that would make sense. Yeah. Just to have the reality of the environments you're in is kind of the most interesting thing about them. That that you're in the Emerald Graves and there's some just stuff built into it that kind of gives it personality. There's no good plot that happens there. It's just sort of what you can imply from the surroundings. And so I guess there's room for that. But again, it does feel like you have to kind of create a lot of stuff out of whole cloth because it's just not there in the game.
It's not whole cloth, but you do need, you need a whiteboard. You need to probably put up post notes and figure out like, okay, which character would be most interested in what's going on in the Exalted Plains. And so how do we contrive to get Cassandra there if that's the case.
And you can be mercenary with cutting stuff that does not have room, or does not have a narrative place in this adaptation, you can just be like, well, I guess we're not doing the Western approach or whatever. That's fine.
Most of
doing
it's so
the
inessential.
hissing wastes are not going to
Yeah.
feature in this.
Yeah.
Sorry, hissing wastes fans. But
that's the upside of all that stuff being so inessential in the game to the story.
At some point, it feels like, well, a lot of this is just, it is based. I mean, it's not unlike what what Game of Thrones had to do, which is just like, you just come up with it. Just come up with it on your own. The adaptation process at this point requires us to step away from the material, the source material of the game, and do it something else entirely. And building an organization to fight an existential threat, you can write something around that within a fantasy context. A lot of people have. It makes sense. It feels more and more diffuse. It feels less and less like an adaptation of the game and more of its own thing, using the established lore and aesthetics and ideas of Dragon Age and Thedas, which, again, as I said, I aren't really don't hold together as much for me as they once did. And as such, my interest in this, it's just sort of like, I feel it dissipating. As I played Inquisition, the adaptation, I felt it was just sort of floating away from me. Yeah.
Beat it out of us. I mean, and then it doesn't help also that some of the most interesting original aspects of the Dragon Age world, their invention of the Kunari, for example, and the Mage Templar Civil War, that stuff takes an increasingly backseat to the Corypheus demons plotline throughout this game. Like the Mage Templar Civil War is a big deal in the opening hours of this game, and I guess it's been resolved by the end. I don't really remember us resolving it in any particular way.
Yeah.
And the Kunari are almost completely absent until Trespasser. So I'm like, oh yeah, you guys are here, and you guys could be great villains actually, or antagonists. One thing, how to include Trespasser in this is also difficult.
I mean, I take for granted that Solus is part of the adaptation, and that the reveal of what his deal is comes at some point, and so yeah, and I do think that this is kind of where you do a version of Trespasser is where you leave these characters, assuming you are going on and adapting Veilguard for seasons 6 and 7 or whatever of this theoretical thing that we're talking about.
I mean, even if you aren't, you have to end somewhere, and you can end on an open-ended kind of place. But that, I think that's if we're talking about inventing things in whole cloth, I think we're gonna keep. Corypheus is gonna be the bad guy. He doesn't have to look as stupid as he does in the game. No. But whatever. His basic plan is going to be the same. Solus's whole deal is going to be the same, I think. And, yes. And I like that Kunari plot as a thing. It's just, I guess that what I was laying out, you could end the entire Corypheus threat of however many seasons in episode 9 of a 12-episode season. The last 3 episodes are adapting Trespasser.
I would say so.
And it's, it's a pretty big threat there. You're not going to have the time to really develop it in the same way you do with the Darkspawn blights and the Corypheus world-ending invasion. But maybe it doesn't feel like a complete non-event once you've saved the world again. It's a tougher nut.
Well, Solus remains a character I don't think has ever been particularly well defined, and I kind of want him to be more distinct here. I think nailing Solus would be important in adaptation, and even if it's making him more of an outright villain, I think that there's potential to make him more exciting there. To do a full heel turn is something. I don't know. That they probably would not go that direction though. I imagine it'd be more of a make him even more complex, make him give him more kind of contrasting thoughts about what he's up to, give him some humanity and stuff like that. I kind of want to be more of an outright villain, to be perfectly honest, but this games don't really lack for those either. So,
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that out of a love for the Solus character. I think that's a good idea, but is he more effective as a villain if it's a sharper villain turn somewhere towards the end, or if he's always presented as a little more potentially sinister. Maybe somebody that the other Inquisition people don't really like or trust that much, but he's the only one who can do the Fade Rift closing thing that they need.
Well, that's something. Yeah. I mean, really, what I want is just for him to be stronger as a character, and I just mean like more decisively, who he is, have more personality, more agency, more drive. So his plot makes sense. Like, I think that the best version of this is that you think Corypheus is the villain of the piece the whole time, and then, it is a third act reveal that he's actually a pawn of Solus, who we thought we could trust. I think that's the best version of this. Or it's something you can work with. Kind of, but it's not great.
It was Solus's plan all along, and Corypheus was kind of messing it up. But not that he's like a puppet exactly, but that Solus is now using the Inquisition to get rid of Corypheus.
What I want is Corypheus to be the Snoke to Solus's Palpatine, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. But like the character you're describing is kind of Morrigan. That's our magic person with a much stronger personality and drives and
yeah, well, Morgan's a better character than Solus, so yes. Yes, that's what I want. Okay, look, there's another Dragon Age game here. The Veilguard came out this year.
Yeah,
I'm already playing it. As frustrated and pissed off as I was by Inquisition, I jumped right into Veilguard shortly after finishing it. I don't know when we're going to get to it and talk about it. I feel like in a way it's kind of part of a different thing entirely. It's picking up the pieces from the end of Inquisition, but it's a very Ship of Theseus moment for Bioware already. None of the original people are there anymore. It's its own thing entirely. It's different. It is. I'm not going to say bad. But it's different. I don't know when we're going to get back and talk about that one. I kind of feel like this was the end of classic BioWare. Like this was the end of the thing. This got Game of the Year in 2014 when it came out, which is nuts to me a little bit, but
that Game of the Year makes a lot more sense to me if like most of the voting block played like 8 or 10 hours of a game.
I suppose, yeah. It starts so well.
Like a lot of the Academy voters are voting on movies they haven't seen. I believe that those movies are not 80 hours long potentially. So I think people are more reasonably. Yeah, I think a lot of those votes were probably cast. Or I don't even know how they decide that, but
no,
maybe decided by people who hadn't actually played through to the point where you defeat Corypheus in that final very abrupt mission.
I suppose so. I mean, I know this also has a fan base all to its own that never played the first 2 games or came to them later, whatever. It's hard to speak for everyone on this sort of thing. But I would say that overall, this game got eclipsed pretty quickly by other games. The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, came out, I think, like 6 months after this. I don't know if you've played that one. It's a lot more fun version of this. It's a lot more fun to play that game. And I think that's the one people ended up having a lot more enjoyment of and nostalgia for after the fact. And in the years that have followed, there have been people who've picked up the BioWare baton a lot more directly. The Baldur's Gate 3 that came out a little while ago is kind of like by acclamation, like this is a great version of a BioWare RPG. And, obviously it's built on the foundation of Baldur's Gate, their first big thing. So, the heat has moved. There's another Mass Effect game coming out from BioWare, but then there's another space RPG shooter game coming out from the people who made Mass Effect. That is something else entirely, not affiliated with BioWare anymore. So, I don't know.
We're going to have to figure out how to manage all of that. Obviously, we're going to do Veilguard next.
We're going to do Veilguard. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
And then from there, we'll have to make some decisions, some tough ones. Do we circle back to Andromeda? Do we? I would like to play Baldur's Gate 3. I have to get through all these first. And the Veilguard came out and got in the way of it. So now that's next.
Well, fair enough then. So we will come back and we will talk about the Veilguard. Maybe it won't be as long of a thing that we do, but I don't know. It's a pretty big game. We'll see. I'll tell you, I think it's actually fun. I think there's some good writing in it. I think you're going to enjoy it. There's also some bad writing. We will not lack for things to talk about. Put it that way.
Yeah. All right.
All
I'm gonna
right.
need to take a break for a week or so before I dive into that one.
Fair
I'm
enough.
full to the gills with Inquisition.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. Last thoughts on it? This is the end of our Inquisition discussion.
It's just in some ways too much of a good thing, while also getting away from some of the things that we think are most good about it. But yeah, you can have too much. That's what I've definitely learned from Inquisition.
I think I've had too much. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I'm probably going to go play the fucking Veilguard very soon. Later today. So who knows? Maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment at this point. Or maybe I just can't get enough of this. Maybe it is kind of, even at my current age where I'm too old to really have the time for this shit in my life, I'm still just like, yeah, well, gotta finish the entire Dragon Age story again.
There's you have to have that completionist gene in you to have gotten into as far as we have.
Indeed. All right. Well, and that, I'm sure that applies to anyone listening to this as well. At this point, if you've made it this far in the commentary, congratulations. You're like us.
Yes. You sicko.
All right. And thank you for listening, of course.